it doing? How's it going? Sorry for the sun shining into my face. It looks like God is like giving his presence onto me. That's not happening. It's just the sun. Anyway, oh, oh, gross. That's nasty. Sorry, excuse me. Anyway, welcome back to another reading on the r/CREEPCAST fan stories. Today we're looking at a quack doctor extracted my skull. There's a trigger warning on here, body horror. And it's by a man or somebody named Dreadful Name. Let's honestly, it looked interesting. Didn't look too long, didn't look too short. So let's just get right into it and see what's going on in this digital piece of parchment. I really gotta remember how to get that down. A quack doctor extracted my skull. By Dreadful Name. I bought a motorcycle to grab life by the balls. If you'd asked me at the time, I'd have insisted it wasn't a midlife crisis, even though I'm over halfway into my 30 years and 10. But after a series of bereavements, buying a Japanese cruiser was the most reckless action available to my middling accountant. What a sentence. That's the first paragraph. Oh boy. After 6 weeks, it came off the thing just outside Weatherby. Some guy in an oversized 4x4 pulled out on a roundabout. I wasn't spry enough to avoid him. But before that, I'd assume I'd just die at the first sign of trouble. Your body becoming the projectile and all in a crash. What I'd not considered was the scenario I was in. All my internal organs were fine, but with the visor peeled off the helmet, my face took plenty of debris. Skin healed, but a shattered cheekbone didn't knit properly. My teeth looked worse than Lisa Simpson without a dental plan. What does that mean? Your teeth looked worse than Lisa Simpson without a dental plan. What does that mean? Alright. That's what upset my wife the most. She's always loved my smile. People were pretty good about it mostly. I worked in town, and I got maybe one person a day staring at me in the train station. That was enough, though, to make me count down the days until reconstructive surgery. 487 from the day of the accident. The hospital in Leeds has been there centuries. I met the consultant in a tiny room off those grand old halls that have been there since the 1860s. Scanning my whole skull felt unnecessary. Something about the experience had left me feeling oddly light. Thought it was off when he objected to me closing the office door. He had this cacophonous voice that echoed through the hospital wing, as he described in detail how he would refracture my jaw and cheekbone. I watched this tiny, wiry man look up and down my face, sounding almost disappointed when he told me there'd be minimal scarring. My phlegm obstructed breathing sometimes, the only sound between his utterances. Dr. Richards, he was called. Maybe when I chuckled, that set him off, or maybe he took it the wrong way, when I said I was glad I was under the care of Mr. Fantastic. I know, it wasn't that funny. I was just nervous. And looking back, all it did was leave more awkward pauses. So we got Dr. R. Richards. Wow. I just got that. But a week later, as he placed the mask on my face to put me under, there was something wrong in his eyes. I told myself not to worry as I lay back waiting for sleep to take me. An audible giggle told me I was still conscious, yet I couldn't open my eyes to see anyone, nor could I move any part of my body to signal what was happening. Gloved hands grasped my face and pried my eyes open, pointing my gaze directly toward a mirror above me. You sure you can see himself? You sure he can see him? Hold on. You sure you can see himself? Asked a brazy voice between the giggles. The mirror was moving closer now, just far enough away to show my whole face, muscles relaxed unflatteringly. I could feel my eyes drying, able to close them as my lifeless face stared back at me. This time a different hand grabbed my forehead and dripped artificial tears on my eyeballs. A few minutes would pass, just enough to let the pain start, but not so soon as to ever affect my vision. Should we tell him what to expect or surprise him? Asked the giggling, bracy voice. Dr. Richards replied, not a word of amusement in his tone. We'll tell him something, not everything, he replied. I heard a few meters away from me, maybe recording equipment. I had no idea what it was turning on or off.
Jacob, we'll fix your injuries, said the brazy voice, attempting to stifle their amusement, but you will be getting the works from us. Maybe tell him a bit more than that, Dr. Richards interjected, perhaps a touch of frustration entering his voice. Jacob, we're going to replace your skull. The giggle erupted into a guffaw now. My breathing quick and uncontrollable, even in this semifuge state. That'll do, Dr. Richards. Alright, hold on. I can do better than that. That'll do, Dr. Richards replied. Nothing was said for a while. I was left with just my thoughts in my face, trying to convince myself this wasn't real. Trying to convince myself this was impossible. Trying to convince myself this was a quirk of anesthesia. Started with the feeling of cold steel behind my ear, reminiscent of a barber's scissors. The pillow took on a deep red tinge as the blood seeped into my paper beneath. I felt a hand on my forearm pricking in what could only imagine was a catheter to replace the blood I was bound to lose. Then a hard tapping began against the base of my head, almost like a dart hitting the same place with pinpoint accuracy. A tearing sensation accompanied the sight of my skin, peeling away from me as the hand of who I could only assume was Dr. Richards reached from behind me. Never once did he let it break my line of sight with the mirror, as he had made sure to pull the shards of cranium into my view from the wound behind my ear. I start to cry almost immediately, yet the possessor of my brassy voice halted the brassy voice halted the build-up to avoid my vision blurring. That kind of jumbled all together. The balance they had with my eyes was almost impressive. This clearly wasn't the first rodeo. The pain had changed as he worked the tapping under the side of my head. Now it remained... Holy crap, I cannot read today. The pain had changed as he worked the tapping up the side of my head. Now it reminded me of the time I'd walked through the cricket club as a kid and caught a stray cork ball behind my ear. If I'd have been able to think through the pain, I'd have asked where Dr. Richard was in relation to me. He was sitting behind me like a dentist, or was he laying on his back, reaching upwards, a la mechanic? Alright. Either way, his view of the scene was lower priority than my own. Next, a tool appeared in my view, a black, segmented thing, looking almost like one of those cheap toy snakes kids get at parties. This, though, was millimeters thick and was being fed slowly into the hole made on the side of my brain cavity. There's a cruelty in this care and precision to somehow avoid even the most microscopic of brain injuries. In a few minutes, the tool had looped back around and out like the string on a pair of trousers. A moment later, my head grew 3 inches in diameter as the tool expanded outwards and the shrapnel of my forehead looked like parched ground beneath my skin. My vision was changing, somehow not through pain or change of consciousness, but instead the angle of my right eye was changing as what had been my temple disappeared into the pool of drying blood on the pillow beneath me. Part of my face existed in a blind spot, while my right eye veered off to the side and brought the door to the operating theater into my field of view. My left eye stayed fixed in place, watching the other side of my face melt off, like a Salvador Dali painting. As I felt Dr. Richards add some sort of supportive structure to my face, I was surprised my nerve endings still detected his hand adjusting my eyes back to the correct position. His work continued, and the time my left eye revealed the monitoring equipment doing me the favor of keeping me alive through this procedure. They returned my eye to its original orientation and drew the mirror away from me. Something must have been placed around my brain to keep me alive, and thinking back, I don't remember seeing the skin on my forehead look totally flaccid, rather just loose like a deflated balloon. Aside from that, by now, the upper part of my head was a mix of blood and pulped bone mix, only the structure around my ears staying intact. I wonder if the mirror moving away signaled the end of my procedure, and soon I'd be out of my misery. That's when the hand of the brassy voice came into view, and a clear tube was quickly forced down my throat. Seconds later, the hand struck my nose with what only could be a hammer. I drew a breath in again, and they finally gave up on managing my tears. Again and again,
The hammer came down until I could feel the structure of my face crashing inward, and a blur of my caved-in face stared back at me. I let out a gasp as it stopped. The tear management returned as this time my vision changed as the angle of my eyeballs turned inwards. The whites of my eyes became visible to one another until only the blackness of the opposite pupil was visible to its neighbor. I wonder how many humans have ever truly stared into their own eyes, Dr. Richards mused. Perhaps unaware I was still conscious, his hands were at the edge of my jaw. Now as he pressed in with the monumental strength, something clicked, maybe a fracture, perhaps a dislocation, followed a rattle like you're trying to plug an appliance in a socket you couldn't see. Seconds later, an odd tickle from my chin left everything loose, and a numbness reached my lips from my boneless jawline. The support of my temple adjusted slightly as they let my eyes turn to their normal level. More bone was pulled from the wound, till all that remained was skin, the casing around my brain, my eyes, ear canals, and the outlet of my breathing tube. "You'll stop hearing things now, Jacob," Dr. Richards told me. "We'll let you sleep for the remainder of the procedure." "You'll be better than before," the brassy voice chimed in. "More symmetrical, not as lumpy. It's amazing in modern medicine." Dr. Richards paused. "I don't care if you remember this, Jacob," he said at last. "I'm willing to answer for my actions. You know my face and my name, but I'll do you the courtesy of fixing you, even if I owe you nothing." As my ear canals collapsed and my eyes blurred, the only sensation left was the bitter taste of canned air and anesthetic coming from through the tube. I could just about make out my eyes moving back into position as I lost consciousness. I woke up the following day with my head tied in bandages. They only knew I was awake by the sound of me screaming. Apparently, I'd woke the entire ward. I'm lucky in a way because my wife wheeled me out well before I was recommended to be discharged, but she knew my feelings from the wails beneath the swelling. The two of them been correct. I did look better than I'd ever done before. More symmetrical, better teeth. At least that's what people tell me. I've not looked at the mirror since. Soon I'll be seeing Dr. Richards in court. He didn't deny anything, and by all accounts, he'd expect to plead guilty. There's mixed evidence regarding who else was in the room. Nasal voices aren't uncommon in West Yorkshire. All we have to go on was the sound of brassy voice telling my wife I probably wouldn't smile for a time. They were right in that regard. Not a bad story, my guy. I like the detail with, the face caving in and the eyes, moving all around like a dang chameleon, and then they, cave in on each other. I kind of like that visual of them, just slowly taking out the skull and your face kind of, going flat with all the muscle and stuff. It's a pretty sick visual. It might have just been me, but there could be a couple commas here and there. But my reading probably didn't help at all. I'm just trying to read to get people's stories out there. I'm not an expert at all. But like I always say, keep writing. You will only get better. That's a fact. You keep writing, you'll realize you'll make mistakes. Everyone's going to make mistakes. And you can fix those mistakes and make a story so much better. I know I can. I mean, not the reading part, but, I'm writing my own stories. Anyway, those will probably come later. Anyway, thank you so much. I appreciate y'all watching. I will leave I can't talk right now. Holy crap. I will leave the link in the description below so you can check out the author yourself. Please be nice, kind, courteous. Only give supportive criticism. And you all have a great